Okay, YouTube, I'm back again. It's Michael Bell for Torrent Performance, and yeah, gonna change some oil today. So we got some oil here, oil filter. Got my friend that will remain nameless, Steven's bike, and yeah, we're gonna change some oil. Yeah. All right, back here again with nameless Steven here, his R6. I took it for a ride and warmed it up. You always want to warm your bike up before you change the oil and get it up to operating temperature. You never want to change it cold. The oil does not flow properly, or you won't get all of it out when you're doing a filter and an oil change. And yeah, so I'm going to strip the fairings down and get to the oil filter, and we're just going to do some basic oil change here. Nothing major. The one thing I will say is, I'll tell you what, last night someone at one of my work gave me a avocado, and I have never ate an avocado before, and I'll tell you what, I ate it last night, and this morning I woke up, I mean, ton of energy, like, let's go. These little green fruits or vegetables, whatever the hell they are, I don't know what the hell they are packed full of super shit. So yeah, avocado powered oil change here, so we're gonna get started. And before you ever do an oil change on a bike or ATV, four-wheeler, etc., you always take the oil fill port cap off, because this is going to allow air into the system when you're draining the oil. You want to wipe this off when you're done. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to actually drain the oil on this bike, and what I usually do is I will drain the oil first before the oil filter. When I talked to Steven, I said, well, how long has it been since you changed your oil? And he said, well, you know, I'm not sure. And when you're not sure, you know, you've had the bike for 10 years and you're not sure how long it's been, it's time to change your oil. If you buy a motorcycle, you don't know the owner, you can't trust anybody on what they tell you about your engine. You always go through and just start changing fluids. That's what I do. You're on the safe side. And I've already measured it out. Now, I always have a clean oil pan when I drain my oil, and the reason that is I actually measure what comes out of it. Every bike is usually different when you drain the oil. I have a bike that recommends that you drain it with the kickstand down, where this one, from what I read in the owner manual, it didn't say. And when I found the port here, it's toward the back of the engine, and it doesn't appear that it's going to matter because it's a flat surface tilting the motorcycle, where my other motorcycle is different. So we'll just go ahead and crack this open here, and I guarantee you this thing's gonna be rough. Break this. And this wrench is no good. So we're gonna go ahead and get this bolt broke loose and see what happens here. It's gonna be tight, I'm sure. And I got it. And it is dark. Well, the oil actually doesn't look too bad. So let that drain. And the one thing about being an Amsoil dealer is, and I'm not going to get into the oil filters yet. We're going to put an Amsoil oil filter on this. This oil filter, I can tell you right now, is a high flow, is what it said on it, and they're 10 micron filters, and we're switching over to a 20 micron filter. And there is a difference between filters. I'm not going to get into it in this video, but there's benefits to running a 20 micron filter than a 5 or 10. When you run an Amsoil, you actually get more life out of your oil than a standard OEM type of oil, where you can get about 10,000 miles out of your oil on these metric bikes, but you need to run an Amsoil oil filter where usually your service intervals are 5,000 miles, could be 3. Every bike's different, refer to your owner's manual. And when you do order, if you order from Amsoil, for a couple of dollars, they sell these oil filter tools. Now, I can't guarantee that these oil filter tools are going to match your oil filter that's on your bike, but they do fit the Amsoil oil filters. And yep, it'll fit it. So a few dollars to be able to pull this off and not have to mess with a strap wrench or whatnot. Some companies actually weld a nut on the end of the oil filter for these smaller engines, so you can just get it with a socket. But these things, well worth the money on them. Oh, they're very cheap. And you're gonna get dirty. If you noticed in the video, I've got my garage clothes on. Go ahead and get this oil filter off there. And you are probably going to make a little bit of a mess. I have some towels handy. Now, when you crack this oil filter open, let it drain. Don't pull it off right away. Get the fluid out of it. I'm going to go get a separate box here. If you're afraid of getting dirty, this kind of work may not be for you. You might want to take it to a professional. Actually, that's why I enjoy making these videos, because someone could potentially watch these videos and say, hey, I can do that. Not have to spend $100 taking it into the shop. Okay, and sometimes these drain plugs will be magnetized and have an end on it. This one is not. So I'm still gonna wipe it down and clean it before you put it back on. And just let this drain. I'm gonna cut here. I always let mine drain till basically it quits running. So we're gonna cut here. Okay, so I put the oil filter drain plug back in, and we're gonna use this Amsoil oil filter. Now, if you look at this, you have 98.7% flow rate at 20 microns on these filters. The filters that most people buy that are 5 microns filter down the particles down to 5 microns, but what they don't realize is that actually restricts the flow. Most 5 micron filters are at 50% flow rate. So if 25 microns is what will damage your engine, you can run a 20 micron filter, have a higher flow of 98.7% flow rate at 20 microns, and it actually flow more oil to your engine and keep it cooler. The main thing on the Amsoil oil filters, a lot of these guys, I sell a lot of oil for Harleys, and they go and they buy these Harley filters, and I'm like, dude, don't buy those. You know, you're going to have to change your oil 5,000 miles, because on your Harley, if you run an Amsoil oil filter at 20 microns, you can run 10,000 miles. And they'll pull the oil, and they're going to go up there to Harley Davidson, and they're going to buy a Harley Davidson oil filter because they like shopping at Harley. And but that's the way it is. So the oil filters are reasonably priced, and we're going to go ahead and get that on there. Now the one thing is, when you put your oil filter on there, you do want to fill it and put oil on the ring here, to have a little bit of a, well, so it doesn't dry rot basically. And then we'll put it on here, get it finger tight, and then give it probably 3/4 turn, I think is what the box says. Yeah, it's 3/4. So finger tight. I'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll torque it 3/4, and then you'll be set on that, and we'll put some oil in. Okay, so I filled the filter and put it on there, and the neat thing about these oil filter wrenches is when you get it finger tight and you have to, you know, turn 3/4, you can actually put the sticker on the top and then turn the oil filter until you get to 3/4, and your mark's here, like 9 o'clock, and it's really easy to do. So when I actually change the oil, I've got these little funnel attachments that I use that go onto these containers, and they're actually really convenient. I believe Amsoil has some that's like a cardboard spout, but these are, you can find these at Walmart, and usually they're only 50 cents or $1. So we'll go ahead and put this oil in here, and you never rush putting oil in. That's how you're going to spill it. The other thing about this Amsoil oil filter is, on these metric bikes, they've added additives to improve the shifting feel of their bike, and every person that I've sold this to has come back and says, oh wow, this, you know, my bike shifts a lot better. It also, a lot of people don't know, has a type of detergent in it, and what the detergent does, it will actually clean the sludge, if there's any sludge and carbon deposits inside anything in here that the oil touches, and it will push it into the oil filter and contain it. And that's another reason why you want to use a 20 micron filter with Amsoil rather than a 5 micron, is on power sports and ATVs and motorcycles with Amsoil, they don't recommend flushing. If you're familiar with Amsoil and you run it in your car, you want to flush your system before you put the Amsoil in. On motorcycles, they do not, because you don't have that much deposits, but it will take, if there's any deposits, and push it into the oil filter. And you really need to use the Amsoil oil filter if you're going to run Amsoil. You're also going to dissipate heat a lot better. And the Amsoil metric oil is pretty much the only oil I use. I put this in my antique Ducati, and that thing, just trying to find neutral in that 25-year-old motorcycle is a pain anyway, but I actually was able to sustain neutral after I put this in here. I don't know if it was built up in the engine or whatnot, but I have been finding neutral. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill this up, put the proper fluid in, and we'll go right back to the table. Well, there you have it. I mean, pretty basic oil change on a 17-year-old motorcycle. It's actually easier than you think. The one thing is the oil filter, like I hit on. If you're going to run Amsoil, you need to run the Amsoil oil filter. The benefits outweigh you changing your oil twice if you don't have to. If you can go 10,000 miles, why would you not want to go 10,000 miles on an oil that will go 10,000 miles? Why would you put oil that will last 10,000 miles and run a filter that lasts 5,000 miles? Except the motorcycle I do own is about 185 horsepower, and I run a 10w-40, and I'm going to do a whole series on the 20 weight V-twin type oil, and I do not push the limits on that bike. 6,000 miles what the oil change is, that's why I changed the oil in. However, the oil filter is not a canister type, it's a cartridge type. Now if you do want to just run Amsoil and run your standard intervals, Amsoil does usually sell Wix filters, which are very good filters. You know, you just go to your standard oil change intervals. But if it was me, I'd run the 10,000 miles if you can. It'll save you money in the long run. And like I said, the detergents inside this full synthetic oil will clean your engine to where you do not have to flush it. So yeah, I really hope that video helped some people. It's really easy to do. And actually, if you decide you do want to change your own oil, after you do it, you feel like, holy shit, I accomplished that. Because I'm just not a big fan of just going out and paying people. That's half the reason I sell this stuff. Is this is some of the best oil, you know, that is made. And I've always worked on my own stuff, and I have things to do, and people see today. A little bit of time off of work. I'll have to go on to work tonight. But yeah, so that's the video on the V-twin or metric motorbike oil change. I also forgot to add, dispose of your oil properly. Once you're done, pour it back into the container and take it to AutoZone, O'Reilly, Advanced Auto Parts. Just to get rid of the oil. They recycle it for free. And check the link below if you want to help support me. Thank you.